Good evening. I call to order the East Brunswick Township Council Agenda Action Meeting for June 10th, 2019. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and also we're going to have a moment of silence for Bill Schmidt, who passed away this Friday. He was a part-time plumbing and subcode official in the Building Inspection Department. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just have a seat. Ms. Perry, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Councilman McAvoy?
Here.
Councilman Spadafino?
Here.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Here.
Councilman Wendell?
Here.
Council President Stanley?
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required under Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, specifying the time, date, location, and to the extent known, the agenda, by posting a copy on the Municipal Building Public Notice Bulletin Board located in the main lobby, providing a copy to the Home News, Tribune, and Sentinel newspapers, posting a copy on the Township's website, and by filing a copy in the office of the Township Clerk in accordance with the certification, which will be entered in the minutes.
Thank you. Tonight we will start with a presentation by Mayor Cohen for a Green Business Recognition Award to the Brunswick Square Mall.
Thank you, Council President. This is not a proclamation, but it's a presentation of an award, and this award is based on our commitment as a township to sustainability and trying to create green spaces right here in the township. As many of you probably know, through information out there in all different sources, the idea of trying to go green, sustainability, the Green Deal, all of these are becoming hot topics and will probably actually be a major issue in the next coming presidential election. But right here in East Brunswick, in our own little corner of the world, we want to do what we can to be responsible tenants of the earth, and to that mission, we've adopted a plan that goes along with the tenets of Sustainable New Jersey, which is a program sponsored by the state, which helps set up different categories that you can gain points for as a guideline to achieving sustainability. And there's different awards at the different point levels that you achieve. And it can be anything from public education to your use of environmental spaces to how you handle waste removal and recycling. And it's very, very broad. And among those categories is the idea of trying to involve our corporate world in the idea of sustainability. And we recognize those that do that. In fact, the township has gone overboard in that now that we move towards any new building that's done in the city, we require actually that the spaces provide for charging stations in the idea that we're moving more and more to electric vehicles. Recognizing that some of our corporate sponsors did that without having been a requirement. And that's why this evening we're recognizing the Brunswick Square Mall. As most of you may have seen, or hopefully seen by this point, it was their initiative to put in charging stations for Tesla, which are towards the front of the property bordering on Route 18. And in addition, they have spots for charging stations for cars that are not Tesla vehicles. And that they did without any requirement on the township's part, which, like I said, we now do require. So in recognition of that corporate leadership and the ability to be a partner with the township in trying to achieve our level of sustainability, the township would like to recognize Brunswick Square Mall for their implementation of electric vehicle charging stations. And for that, I'd like to present this award to Ron Lichtenberger, the general manager for the Brunswick Square Mall. Move over here. I thought we were getting rid of these tables.
We are. We're waiting for the tables to come in.
This is exactly what we should do.
Right. It's gonna happen soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Mayor. At this time, I'm going to call on Councilwoman Sullivan to read a proclamation for men's health.
Proclamation Men's Health Month, June 2019. Whereas despite advances in medical technology and research, men continue to live an average of 5 years less than women, with Native American and African American men having the lowest life expectancy. And whereas educating the public and healthcare providers about the importance of healthy lifestyles and early detection of male health problems will result in reducing the rates of mortality from disease. And whereas men who are educated about the value of the preventive health can play a prolonging their lifespan and their role as productive family members will be more likely to participate in health screenings. And whereas fathers who maintain a healthy lifestyle are role models for their children and have a happier, healthier children. And whereas the Men's Health Network worked with the Congress to develop a National Men's Health Awareness Period as a special campaign to educate men, boys, and their families about the importance of positive health attitudes and preventive health practices. And whereas the Men's Health Month website has been established at www.menshealthmonth.org and features resources, proclamations, and information about the awareness, events, and activities, including Wear Blue for Men's Health. And whereas East Brunswick Men's Health Month will focus on a broad range of men's health issues, including heart disease, mental health, diabetes, prostate, testicular, and colon cancer. And now, therefore, may it be proclaimed that I, Brad J. Cohen, Mayor of Township of East Brunswick, do hereby proclaim June as Men's Health Month in the Township of East Brunswick and encourage all our citizens to increase awareness in the importance of a healthy lifestyle, regular exercise, and to pursue preventive health practices and early detection efforts. Given under the hand of the Great Sale of the Township of East Brunswick, this 10th day of June of the year 2019. Mayor Brad J. Cohen.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sullivan. At this time, I'm going to call upon PSE&G, Mr. Frank Lucchese, to come up and make a presentation for the updates regarding the gas project here in East Brunswick.
Okay, good afternoon, actually evening, Council President, Mayor,
Good evening.
members of council. It's good to see you again. We wanted to come in, and let me pass this out. Let me get this out to you first, and then I'll start with some opening comments. Okay, thank you. So with me this evening, as usual, if you recall, we made a presentation for this gas system modernization program back in late March. And the program deals with the replacement of bare steel and cast iron main that we will be doing throughout East Brunswick. Back in March, we did our our presentation to introduce the program to you and talk about the streets that we were going to undertake the main replacement. Prior to that, obviously, we had our meetings. We had several meetings with Mr. Crusculo and Mr. Kipp, just kind of backdoor planning before we made our presentation to council. Today, what we wanted to do was give you an update. Obviously, the gas main replacement is in full swing in town. We wanted to try and accomplish three things tonight, if we could, with you. One is to, and the list that you have there is to give you an update of where we're at in terms of construction. Some streets have been completed, some are still working. We're actually a little ahead of schedule, but we'll talk about that momentarily. Item number two is we wanted to talk about the process and communication of where we're at. We obviously have a hotline that residents can call, but we want to ensure your residents that the work that is being done, they have a open line of communication, not only to PSE&G, but to the project team if they have any questions. We also have been communicating quite extensively with Mr. Kipp as our construction company that's been working on it, has been doing. And then we want to update you on the restoration process, the road restoration process. I think originally we talked, and I don't want to speak out of turn, I'll introduce my my colleagues that are with me today, but we talked about trying to phase the paving when we're done, when all the work is done. I mentioned a little bit ahead of schedule, and we may not have to phase. We might get the actual restoration work done a little bit ahead of schedule, but we'll talk about that momentarily. So with me, we have Dennis Brophy, who is with Waters and Bugby and in charge of the project from the construction side. And then from PSE&G is Kelly Sutter, who is our project manager internally that's been running the GSMP2 project, and if I have to say, doing a great job. So I'd like to bring maybe Kelly up as well, and Dennis, if you have any questions. But I wanted to first go over the street list that we have in front of you. And Kelly, if you want to come up. We try to make it a little bit bigger. It's a little spreadsheets are a little tough to go, so we enlarged it up for you. But we thought it might be a good idea just to kind of review where we're at. Obviously, from the top down, you can see from the 2 pages that we have main that has been installed behind curb. We have roads that are ready to be paved. We have areas, and it kind of falls in, you know, complete all the way down to we're still working on it type of format. So eventually those down at the bottom where the main has been installed, you know, they'll eventually start to work its way up where uprates will be complete. Then the services, remember from the presentation that each resident and each household that is connected to our service will get new service run to their home as well, and that's all coordinated. So when you see services, those are the services that we refer to. And then once that's all complete, obviously there's temporary restoration that's done. We'll talk about restoration shortly. It gets ready for paving, you know, final paving. So Kelly, I don't know if you want, and again, I assume we want to keep this more of an open format if members of council or mayor, if you have any questions. But this is kind of our tracking list, if you will, from a street perspective of where we're at in terms of construction. So from us, go ahead, I don't know if you
Yeah,
want.
just an overall project update for everyone. When the overall project is about 33,000 linear feet of main install. So at this point, we are at about 31,000 that we've completed of the actual main, that's open trench that you're seeing up and down the roads. So we're about 90% complete with that main install. Services, we had approximately 830. We're about 50% complete with those services, what we have remaining. So Frank mentioned earlier that we are ahead of schedule. When we presented last time, we were looking at a September, end of September final project closeout. And right now, based off the project, we should be 100% complete by mid-August. Pending weather, you know, we don't know what that's going to look like. That could be the only issue. We were able to throw a lot more resources at the project overall than originally anticipated. So from our side, we do believe we're making a lot of progress. We're working hand in hand with the town, the police. Everything is going smoothly with the project. So with that said, like Frank spoke, top to bottom, the first up to Wolf Ave, these streets are 100% complete. They're in what we call the settlement period at this point. So the permanent backfilling is done at this point, and it's hot patch, temporary restored for the settlement period. We allow 60 to 90 days. So kind of just to use these streets as an example right now. When we were here last time, we explained that we have an outreach process with the residents. So over the next week or so, we're going to be mailing out a letter that's specifically for these streets and these residents. They'll receive this letter, and in the letter, it just explains where we're at with the project. Construction is complete, but restoration steps still need to take place. That is inclusive of any grass restoration, any sidewalk restoration, any curbing restoration, as well as explaining our 60 to 90-day period, and that we will be back to restore the roads once we determine the final restoration project. So that is the more recent communication that will go out to the residents. The rest of the streets on here that are still under construction, we're sending out reverse 911 calls every 4 weeks to the residents to update them, to let them know that we're still actively working. Construction is not complete. We're giving them at least a week ahead still, trying to let them know when we're coming back on the street. So that's where we're at as far as communications with the residents at this point in the project.
Real quick, any questions, communication-wise?
Yeah, Ms. Sutter, when you, as soon as you, excuse me, as soon as you began your presentation, you talked about 33,000 feet of line being installed, then you said 830, what was that number for?
The services, so that's the individual service from the street to the residents' homes. That's 833 residents that are impacted by that upgrade of
Thank you.
their individual service.
If I may, Council President? Thanks for the updates. I think it's helpful. As you know, I live in one of the areas, and
Right.
great job. Everybody did a fantastic job, did a great job at my house, did a great job at my neighbor's house. The gentleman from PS that was walking around and actually trying to schedule the in-home work was extremely communicative. I mean, we spoke on cell phone back and forth to try to, he'd call me up and say, listen, we're jammed up, not gonna be able to do it today. And that's great service. The roads, it was a nuisance with
It is.
all the
Right.
traffic in the area and, all the shutdowns and all that, but seemed to be done very systematically, although there were days that I couldn't figure out how to get to my house.
Yeah.
Turn corner here and there's services going on over here, and turn over here and there's main going in over there. But great job. The one thing I will say is a lot of people come to me and tell me that there's a lot of asphalt gravel still around, almost like maybe a sweeper should have went through the area after you guys were completed.
So we actually, I believe today or tomorrow, we actually had a crew go out. We had the rain day, and we Dennis had his supervisors go out and do an assessment basically of all the areas. And did the sweeper go out this afternoon? Not today. I think the rain got a little. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is recognized. They
Great.
also fixed some areas that were kicking up over on Merrill. There's a couple
Yeah.
problem areas that we did identify. So we take that feedback, and we did recognize that.
The one thing I would say, and I'll actually ask Keith to chime in on this, who's going to determine the paving area when the time is through? Where's going to be the limit of?
We've been working together from the start to come up with an overall plan, and then as Kelly had mentioned, as they progress, since the construction's not done, we'll reassess prior to that to make sure we're on the same page.
I mean, and you talk about the amount of lineal feet you have. I mean, that's a lot of paving to
Correct.
be done between now and the end of paving season.
So that sorry. I didn't-
No, go ahead. I mean, you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
I just,
Yep,
how's the timing
100%.
you're gonna be able to handle it all?
Yeah, so our goal is to begin restoration, and Keith and I we're gonna have to physically walk the streets, because like Keith said, we did our best, based off the conditions of the existing roads that were under moratorium, we did our best assessment of the paving, but construction happens and things change. So we have to do an actual physical walk down, and we have, over the next month, that's our goal to do that, so that we're prepared, because bulk of this project will be done by the second week in August. My goal is to start paving the first week of August. We're looking at probably 2.5 weeks to pave with our paving contractor. They do move very fast. They're very efficient. They've been looking at the overall footage. So our goal is to start the first week in August, and weather pending, we would be done before school is back in session at the end of August.
That's pretty bold. But,
Oh.
and then that paving's gonna be a mill and pave, correct?
Correct.
I mean, we are just, I'm working on over 120,000 square yards of paving in another city right now, and we're estimating that to take 12 days.
And that's a contractor that Keith's comfortable with? That's
Yeah,
going to
and
be doing
we-
the asphalt restoration?
Yes, we discussed that, I'm very comfortable with them.
Yeah, and they've done work in East Brunswick 2 years ago. They did the restoration with our first GSMP1 project, so they were here
little
and
track record.
successful, yeah.
I have a question regarding the paving. Is it going to be, how's the paving, like just one section, or is it half the road or curb to curb?
Depends.
Yeah.
Keith, could you go up on mic and explain to him how that works?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. We started at the beginning, obviously, there were some roads that they're hitting that were paved as recent as last year.
Correct.
And PSE&G acknowledged that, and I came up with a list, the last reconstruction date of every street that they're working on. And we have a formula roughly based on that. The newer roads, paved curb to curb. The ones that are almost as new, we want at least half the road paved. And then some of the roads that I plan on getting to and we're looking at for our paving program, restore the trench as best we can, and then we'll take over at the end. But I've been in touch with Kelly throughout the process and made sure she was aware of what we were looking at, and I think we're on the same page with that.
Now, in the past history, these trenches, have there, if it does settle further after paving, do you guys come back and repave, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the situation there is that if there's settlement, so there's required compaction, testing, aggregate, the backfilling is to spec of what the town requires in typical construction. So the contractor knows that, and that at the end of the day, if there is trench settlement, the contractor will be responsible to come back, fix the trench settlement, and the road would be repaved for those issues.
So
And based on the prior experience we had, the streets that were done, we didn't see much settlement at all, because they waited, like Kelly had said, they gave it some time.
90 days.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's good to have a couple nice hard rains, that helps compact
Yes.
everything,
Correct, yeah.
and then you're ready to go.
And that allows us, I know that's hard for residents to hear, but that 60 to 90 days allows us to fix any issues prior to paving. Yeah, So, and we, like Keith just said, historically, Waters and Bugby being the contractor, I have been working on these projects across the state, and I have not had a settlement issue. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but their goal is to not have to come back and fix that, yes.
Mayor?
So I just want to be clear for residents that there is a plan in place that's going to repave all the roads, and that you'll be looking at some future date before you'd make those final determinations which roads are going to get what degree of repair. And so the main reason we don't want to publish any lists right now is because they are subject to change.
Change, correct.
Right, but residents need not fear that, as best as possible, things will be brought back to as good or better a shape as what they were to begin with. And-
Correct.
Right.
And all
I-
the information that we're sharing regarding these updates, we also, part of the communication process, and it's on your website, I believe, is we have a website, PSE&G, that gives construction updates. So as these roads are completed, residents can also go on and see, we status it, it's color-coded, green, red, and yellow for like in process, completed. So it's just also, that's available to the public as well, for them to view, to watch the progress of the construction.
Right. And the only other thing I wanted to bring up is that we had a couple of complaints in the last couple of days regarding garbage service not being able to get to the areas that's required, and that was because of the construction. So I recognize that you need to do the work, but if it's going to interfere with our ability to get to the services that we pay for and the residents pay for, that the residents be given enough notice by your communicating with our hauler, that services may be delayed, and therefore pickups may need to be altered, because they were complaining, and rightly so, that the roads were officially open according to your guidelines, which is great, but it couldn't fit a truck.
Yeah, so twofold on that. So Mr. Criscuolo made that situation, brought that situation to our attention. And since then, and Kelly can elaborate on it a little bit, so we had to reach out to the waste hauler. We had that situation before where our contractors always allow for garbage recycle pickup. A lot of times it's just a communication issue with the actual driver. They're seeing local roads, they're not sure if it's open, it's closed. But be that as it may, and it's not a finger pointing thing, be that as it may, we're reaching out both to police, to the waste hauler as well, and our contractor knows that when they see, any of the recycle or garbage pickup, to make sure that it's encouraged. And police is on both sides of our roads as we're opening them as well. So we just want to make sure we're all communicating. So that kind of communication did go out after Mr. Criscuolo brought it to our attention.
All right, thank you
We
very
wanted
much.
to make sure, because, go ahead.
To add
Yeah,
something
I don't know
as
if you
well.
want to.
Yeah, to address that situation, and apologize if it inconvenienced anyone with their garbage pickup. But what we'll do on our end as well is, I'm gonna have my project manager, we have toolbox talks every morning, talk to our foreman, and to look out for any kind of deliveries. I know we've also had deliveries, Amazon Prime, Fed Express. We do whatever we can to get the people in and get their deliveries. Trash collection, I know, is very important, especially as it gets warmer in the summer. So we will address that. We'll also talk to the police. Sometimes the police, which is good, they're not in their cars. They're out walking around on the job site. So if a driver comes, sees a car, sees the road closed, I could see where a driver could figure, hey, I can't get up that street. But we always have access on our street because we have to get our own vehicles up and down the street, our dump trucks, our utility trucks. So we always have a lane that we can go in and out. So we will do whatever we can so that people have access to the streets.
Great, thank you.
Frank, would you, or Kelly, just give us the website address, because we're going to take this portion and make a YouTube out of it and announce it over and over again,
Yeah,
so
we may
people
wanna
that
do
didn't
the
get to
AD
see this.
number 2.
So you know what the website address is?
Do we have it here?
Yeah, it is www.pseg.com/gasworks with an S at the end, GASWORKS. That's the direct website to all the status, and then you just have to select the
Drop
city
down,
and the
drop
drop
down.
down.
Okay.
But I can provide officially.
Plural, gas work?
Works with an S, yeah.
GASWORKS.
And we like seeing you, Frank, so we would like to invite you back for August 12th, which
Wait,
should be right around
Completion time, we hope.
of completion, and you can give us an updated work schedule
Okay.
and before your daughter starts to play soccer again.
Yeah.
So-
Is there available meeting prior to August 12th?
Yeah, I might be down there, I tell you, right?
I'm just curious, just because if
Well,
we're looking
well-
to start paving the first week in August, it might suit us better to be here in July for an overall update. Just a thought.
End of July.
They can come anytime they want, right?
July
July
22nd.
22nd is the last meeting.
I'm just proposing.
That's
that
fine,
might
and,
be better.
if we're not at the point where we'd like you to be at, we'll just invite you again later on
Yeah,
in August.
and we can, we can.
I like hanging
do a
out.
follow-up.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
Before you let you go, can you just give a quick update to the other project, the substation? Have you guys finished that? And
Yeah, so,
Tree
no,
cutting,
not finished. Actually, the Harts Lane substation will be going before your...
Zoning board.
Yeah, your zoning board. All right, so Mr. Kipp will tell you, there was a technical review committee this morning.
Okay.
That is going to, what date is it? We're June... What's that zoning board? Yeah, what's that, 20th is sticking in my head, too. So that will go before the zoning board on June the 20th.
And that's, only after that will they start all the trimming of the trees and all that?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Once we get the actual approval from zoning, then they'll start in phases now. They'll start with tree trimming first, And it'll be a very similar process like we do with gas. There'll be extensive notification to the residents, and we got, just like we have public outreach for our gas construction, we also have public outreach for the electric side of the house that does very extensive communication out to the residents with this. So everything, and every phase of the way, when we're doing the arborists who do the tree trimming are the guys that go out and knock on the door and tell everybody about the tree trimming. And then as the project starts to swing in gear, then we do a series of outreach to all the residents. And it's the same thing. They'll have their own 800 number, direct to the project. Any questions that they have, obviously we'll do that, and notices.
Have you started replacing the trees that you had chop down?
I don't think we even started trimming yet. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
you did
nothing
start
yet.
trimming on the Milltown Road a little bit.
We've taken a lot of
Yeah.
trees down.
All right,
So-
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very
Another
much.
question? That's it. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
I just want to say one thing. As a contractor for a long time, we've worked to a lot of municipalities throughout the state. And as Kelly said, we are a little bit ahead of schedule than what we thought, and anybody that knows in construction, most of the time, everything's behind. But we couldn't do that without the cooperation that we've had from Department of Public Works, the police, been great, and actually, you got a pretty good group of residents in this town. I could see why people would want to live here. So, do a great job in this town, and it's been a pleasure to work here so
Thank
far.
you, sir.
Hopefully, we can have a strong finish.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those comments. Appreciate that. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call our Director of Planning and Engineering, Mr. Keith Kipp, to come and make his presentation.
All right. Council President Stanley, thank you for having me. Council members, Mayor, B.A. Crisculo, appreciate being here. I have, several items to bring up, and I guess the first one I'm going to start with is our Uniform Construction Code fee schedule. We're updating that ordinance as a whole. I have Rich Vigliotti. He is our Chief Construction Official in our Building and Construction Inspection Department. If there's anything technical that I can't handle, I'm going to call Richie up to fill everyone in. But basically, the overview is that our code hasn't been touched, our ordinance, since 2007. And a couple things, actually, something major happened last year. The New Jersey Land Register came out with a minor work and ordinary maintenance code, which says, and on the outset, it's a good thing that roofing, siding, minor work, kitchen cabinets, water heaters of the same size and kind don't necessarily need a permit. Which on the outside, you can look at that and say, well, that's a good thing. But in my opinion, it's a double-edged knife and double-edged sword in the fact that I think our residents are losing a degree of protection. Many people may be comfortable with roofing or siding or kitchens, and a resident could know and do a good job. But where we're losing is a contractor, an unscrupulous contractor, can come in and take advantage of residents, and they know that there's nobody like a construction official who's an expert in this field is going to be checking what they're doing. So we're losing some levels of protection. And again, the only reason our code officials exist is for safety, and I think it's a degree of protection that we're losing. But that being said, there's also fees that were lost with that, with these permit fees not being required anymore. And we ran through some numbers, and with the fact that we haven't updated our fee schedule in so long, Richie's staff did an excellent job and compared all of our fees with surrounding municipalities, and to no surprise, we were much lower because we haven't updated. So we felt it was a good time right now to get all of our fees updated on par with surrounding municipalities, and also the code. There's been technological changes, obviously. With building construction, things change. So there's stuff in our ordinance that really isn't appropriate, and there's stuff that we're missing. So we added all of that to the ordinance at once, and obviously we went through the fees, and majority raised, slightly, some stayed the same, but all of them, at no point are we the highest fee. With these changes, we won't be the highest at all. will be on par with surrounding municipalities. That being said, Richie came on board this year, and we sat down right away and said, there's some changes we want to make, some advances we want to make with our department, and some of them are technology, getting the inspectors to go out with tablets, making it more efficient, reporting back to the office, and losing fees is not a way to move ahead with technology, obviously. So that's why we felt it appropriate to get our fees on par and to try and not cut the losses, but to make sure that they are a self-sustained entity, meaning they don't take any money from taxes. They generate the fees for their inspection, for their reviews, for everything. So we wanted to just make sure that their fee schedule is fair to both residents and businesses, and that they're being compensated properly. So that's why we went through this and made the changes we're recommending. Any questions on that?
Is it all right to go into specifics? Sure. Okay. I noticed that in the majority of these cases, the fee increases 15%, 20%. But on a couple of them, especially I was looking at this and came across the section A6 regarding sheds. It's on page 1. And, and I just noticed that the fee went to a flat $100, whereas before, a 10 by 10 shed would be $15, and a 10 by 12 shed would be like $30. And if I'm reading this right, now it's flat rate. If you put up a shed, it's $100.
That's if a permit is required. I mean, zoning requires a permit for a shed. And again, that's something I wanted to just point out to all the residents. When you're starting with a permit of any kind, start with zoning to see what you're doing to make sure it complies and any rules you need to comply with. But as far as the sheds, they went through that carefully, and by volume is the calculation they came up with, and to try and make it fair. Rich, do you have anything to add about the shed?
Under the square footage, we don't take a permit out.
Right. So the smaller sheds, a permit with the construction officials isn't required. And it's just a $25 fee with our department. We make sure the setbacks are good, and then you're good to go with your shed.
Okay, so then you got to explain this to me further, because then I don't understand the two scenarios you're talking about.
A shed that has footings or any type of thing that would be required for a UCC permit would go to him, and that would be charged the permit fee that you're talking about.
Okay.
Any other normal shed is just simply a zoning. Come to us, we would check the setbacks, make sure it fits on a lot, you're within the appropriate distance from your property lines, and that's it.
Okay, so just to get the scenario right, I go to Home Depot, not promoting Home Depot, but I go to Home Depot, I buy a kit.
Go to Lowe's, that's in East
I'll
Brunswick.
go to Lowe's, it's East Brunswick. Go to Lowe's in East Brunswick, and I get the 10 by 10 shed kit that costs $400, and I go to set it up, and I check with zoning to make sure that I have to be 4 feet from my property
Right,
line
that's
on
before
either
you buy it.
sides.
You want to do that.
You know,
to make sure
and be all I can fit it, and so I say, okay, this is where I'm gonna put it, and then what happens? That is not a $100 fee, that is
$25.
$25 to have somebody from Township just say,
Right,
yep, you're
'cause
4
we're
foot,
not-
you're 4 foot, you're good.
Yes, but also, we're not going to come and see how it was built. We're going to send an inspector out to look that it's at the proper offsets.
Right,
And that's
right.
it.
Yeah, not worrying about whether I do a crappy job
The
of
larger
following
sheds are
directions or
something-
not.
Right. Something put together that would require footing or something, that gets a permit. They'll come out and check the footing, the framing, and all that stuff. That's for a larger shed.
Okay, good. And I have one more question, is that all right, Jim?
Don't,
Okay.
Council President.
Council President is right to ask,
Go ahead,
I asked about
you
one
got the
more
floor.
thing that I just wasn't sure I understood.
You got the floor.
On page 2, they show us a fee of, again, another one that had the largest jump, was doubling of the temporary structure fee from $50 to $100. But I'm just not clear what a temporary structure includes. What are temporary structures?
I had the same question. Now, I talked to Richie about it, and he said it's so rarely used, it was outdated. Rich, can you think of a reason?
They used to put like a temporary shed up on a construction site. They don't do it. They bring a trailer in there.
Yeah.
And it has to meet, zoning and everything else in our department. So we haven't used that in years, since I've been here.
Okay,
I'm
so
glad
it's
you
kind of
brought it up.
obsolete, but it's there.
I questioned it, and a lot of the stuff that I questioned and I wasn't satisfied with what we collectively came up with, I eliminated. But this one, I thought there was a little gray area, so I said, let's keep it in there, just in case we ever have to revisit that, and there's an issue.
Okay,
But thank you for catching that and bringing that up.
okay.
If I may, Council President?
Okay.
All right. I'm into construction. That's what I do, so I have a number of questions. But just to go back to the shed thing. So a wooden shed that's delivered on a trailer that has to be, anchored to the earth, that's, say, only 8 by 10 or 10 by 10, but they get their zoning, there's an anchoring requirement. Is that a permit, or we don't have a anchoring requirement?
And anything under 100 foot is not ours.
Okay. Okay.
Anything over that,
If it's 10 by 12 though,
then we need a permit.
a full
Plans.
permit? This is not, it's not on a foundation?
Still need a permit to see if it's anchored properly.
Okay. And then to that, the permit is a minimum of $100?
Right.
Every shed permit's a minimum of $100?
Right.
Okay. And then it calculates by volume after that?
Yes.
Okay.
On that one, does he also have to go to the zoning office and get
Sure.
the zoning permit? So it's two
Yep.
permits?
Right.
It's 25
Zoning
feet.
permits for
yes.
every,
And then the...
and any structure, any
Yes.
temporary permanent
Always
structure.
start with zoning.
All right, page 2 in your pamphlet, number 7 and number 8, you started out talking about siding and roofing. So we actually upped the fees for siding and roofing. Why do we have fees in there if permits aren't required?
I think that's
I'm
for a
just-
brand-new siding job. That's not a
Yeah, but
re-siding.
Oh, not a re-siding.
Right, right.
It's not re-sided.
But a brand-new siding job would be on new construction.
Basically, yes.
And so that would be calculated on volume of the structure rather than, the siding wouldn't be a separate fee.
Siding is $300, okay? Roofing is $200. Now, the state has taken that out of our regulations.
To re-roof and a re-side.
Right.
Right.
The problem is, if they rip the roof off, which nobody knows, and they have to put sheathing in, they're supposed to come in and take out a permit.
Oh, I don't disagree with you. I don't
Never
like,
happens.
I don't like the fact that these aren't permitted activities at this point. I was surprised when DCA opted to do that. But no, I ask about why we have siding, or, I mean, siding is down here as going up to $75 or $30 per thousand of estimated cost. And then we have number 8, which is a re-roof. Now, if it's not required to have a permit, why do we have it?
We call it the 4 families: building, fire, electric, and plumbing. Started New Jersey Coalition Committee. We got together with Cynthia Wilkes, the ex-director, and Mr. Conley, who wrote this back in the 70s.
Right.
And they're going back to the state and coming up with why we're doing this. It's illegal, it's unsafe on certain things.
So you're putting these fees in anticipating that it's going to go back?
We hope to.
If it ever happens.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's just like they passed a law in the bathroom on a shower to put a temperature diverting valve in.
Yeah.
You change your bathroom like for like, you don't need it. Well, you just passed the law.
Right.
Same
Right.
thing with a deck. When people fell off a deck, they made all kinds of rules. Now you can rip your deck up if you have a footing. If you don't, put the deck back, no permits. I mean,
Listen,
and it's all for safety, basically.
And again,
Can't argue-
I
can't
I
argue.
have concerns with the whole concept, as I mentioned.
All right,
think we're
a
losing
couple more
protection.
questions. On your page 4, item C, under electrical subcode fees, I go down to, under item 1C, we add all of these. Now, these are all fees for receptacles being fixtures, receptacles, solar panels. 176 to 200 goes to $365. These are all new fees that we didn't have. These are commensurate with other towns?
Yes.
And then, what do we do, how do we calculate over 200?
It's 245, if it's over 245, you go to 200, and then you go to 45. The next,
Okay. Because, I mean, from a redevelopment perspective, we're going to be having, buildings coming up with thousands and thousands of
you
receptacles.
just take it up to the next level. If you got 400, you double it. That's basically
Okay.
it. We go 0 to 25, and 26 to 30, so forth, and
Okay.
40. That's how we broke it down that way.
I would still question the solar panel being added to this. I would think that the solar panel should almost be
states-
separate.
When the state solar panels came out, we were charging by kilowatt. Then it got exorbitant amount of money. The state says we can't do that. They came up with a thing saying charge what you charge for fixtures. So solar panels, that put 20 modules in,
Yeah, you put
$65, $75.
20 PV panels in at $75? I mean,
Yeah.
come on, that's crazy.
yeah.
I'm saying it's crazy cheap, that's what I'm saying,
Definitely.
Well,
Well, it's just like,
I had some concerns with that as well. That is something new that we added. We didn't have solar in the code before. And I think we could possibly revisit that to come up with a dimension or, some criteria.
we got to
Well,
say,
but a lot of this is determined on how the DCA allows you to,
right, I was just going to say that.
under the administrative code,
Right.
indicates what you can do. All right, a couple more questions if you bear with me. Page 10, fire subcode. Item number 1, fees for sprinklers. I guess that's, again, 21 to 100 heads is 200. Did we not, this is new? We didn't have fees for the heads before?
That's fire sprinklers.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is, Jim, we substantially modified this.
I say that because it's, the other ones we showed where the fee changed. These are just new line items. So I was just curious how we build for.
The old ordinance didn't have it broken down. We tried
really?
to break it down better to come up with this solution.
So you had a flat rate for a
Certain
fire
things,
suppression
right,
system
yeah.
or whatever, and that was it? Okay.
And fire subcode, myself and Keith, we got together and we came up with this.
Right, that was extensive changes to the whole fire section in general.
Yeah, well, and to that end, I go to the next page, and I think that the alarm devices, which were really dramatically changed, I'm a little concerned about the fees there because I think we're going to be pretty onerous in our fees on fire alarms.
This is basically industrial and commercial.
I get it, but I'm not.
The thing is we do.
I'm looking at probably a mid-rise building with 100 units in it. Typical, you're going to be looking at $80,000 or more for a fire alarm permit based on every device. I mean, you're charging, what is it, $75 for the first 5 devices, then $15 for every device in each beyond the first 5 throughout a building. You got a building with hundreds and hundreds of devices.
It takes us over 2 hours, 2 people, to do a fire alarm test.
Oh, I know that.
It's a 100% test.
I know that.
And then
Every
If
device.
something doesn't work right, we have to go back and do it again, legally. We go back and just do what have failed on the last,
Right.
to make it a lot easier.
I'm
We
not
spend a
saying
lot
that
of
the work
time
isn't
on that.
there. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
this
Jim,
seems
if I
like a
may
pretty
just add that
expensive-
we did compare this fee structure to surrounding municipalities, and we're definitely not the highest, and we were online.
Do you have any of those you could share with us?
I do. I can get you the spreadsheets. The girls had all the comparisons done on spreadsheets.
Yeah, we did New Brunswick, Edison, Old Bridge, Monroe, and South Brunswick.
Okay, that's
we have a
great.
spreadsheet.
I'm glad. As long as we're commensurate with.
Right.
those.
When we started, we said the only way to do it is fair. Is to be fair
I mean,
and just with.
I went through everything. I didn't think it was that dramatic. I brought out just the questions that I had. But, so where are we at with our dedication by rider account with this? I mean, we've been dwindling back and back? Because I know you're talking about new technology and all of
Right.
that.
Well, last year, I ran through the numbers, and you can see the hit from 2018 when the rules were changed. We lost, a little over $200,000.
In annual revenue?
Yes.
Wow.
But this year, due to, and it's funny because Council President Stanley had asked me, can you give me some numbers? And I said, we typically, from a typical year is 500 to 600 permits. Now, if you go back and look at our numbers, that changes, because a permit for a stoop in the front of the house versus a commercial permit for, a brand-new building is two different things, but it's still one permit.
Yeah.
Right, so just to give you an
Scope
example,
is
it's between
dramatically
500 and 600 per year that we do, and up to 2018, the fees were kind of consistent. We did see a drop-off. This year, the drop-off isn't as bad, but I suspect it's because we've had a little more commercial, which is a little more larger stuff on the fee side.
Drop off on the fee side, you mean?
We have
Drop.
one commercial coming in.
This year, we're up a little bit because of the commercial hit, that, we're getting more.
Listen, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing this. We should definitely be commensurate with the surrounding towns.
Right.
The biggest, excuse me.
Yeah.
The roof sidings, bathrooms, kitchens, and decks, we're losing about $270,000 a year.
In just straight permit revenue that, yeah. Now, when we go to the iPads or the tablets and all of that, and we make I don't know if we bought them yet or if we're using them.
No, not at all. We wanted to make sure.
I know we've been talking about it since the mayor was elected. That was one of the things that we talked about.
Absolutely,
Right
and Joe wanted to watch the fees, wanted to see how we're doing, because knowing that we took the hit last year.
Yeah.
We don't want to make sure, again, because they're self-sustained,
Yeah,
I don't want to impact their salaries or anything like that.
Do we expect better production out of the inspectors with this technology, or, and I'm not trying to say that they're not doing enough, I'm just saying, we invest in this technology, one would
I think
expect
it'll
that it
help.
makes their paperwork easier or something.
Efficiency, it's all about
Yes.
efficiency. If we're more efficient, then they're going to be more productive. That being said, we're down one inspector this year. Ed Grabelli retired, we did not replace it.
Right.
Unfortunately, we lost Bill Schmidt last Friday, so we're going to be looking for some part-time help.
No, I get it.
As everything picks up. We have 2 hotels ready to break ground. There's a lot of stuff that's coming, obviously, with the redevelopment.
No, please.
So they're definitely
By
going
the
to
end of the
need
year,
help.
you'll have a permit for 110 Tisus.
That's great. Great news.
And keep in mind, when these fees should also augment our fees that are in the network communications that we have to put on. So each of these devices are going to have to be put on the network wirelessly. There's a cost involved with that. There also is the software cost. Last year, Richie and Keith did a great job with the new software that we brought in-house. It gives us a lot more capability. Naturally, we want to keep that software up to date, and naturally adds additional complications to our IT department. So, staffing there has to be there. And I know you approved a expenditure for the firewalls, and it's certainly each of those devices is going to have the encryption and getting through the firewall. So as we get there, it adds additional complexities to other departments, and I would say that the department really adopted the new technology and really embraced it and is able to turn things around. And even from my office, I'm able to look up particular items if there's a concern and be able to respond to a resident if Keith and Richie are out on the road. And I could tell them, oh, we're waiting on your pool vendor to get back to us or whatnot. So I'd like to just commend Keith and Richie for the work they did.
To that end, thank you for answering my questions.
The only problem with the laptops and everything, we still have to do
Print.
paperwork.
Sure.
Yeah, there has to be a
Of course.
sticker, there has to be a piece of
Everything has
paper
to
you're
keep on
handing.
file.
Yeah.
That's the only hang.
No, I get that.
We'll figure it out, though.
Ideally, hopefully, the state allows that to change somewhat in the going into the future, but I know that they don't like to change much. But listen, thank you both. I know this was probably a lot of hard work, a lot of time from both of you and your staff, and especially at a time through the spring and all of that when your offices are both very busy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really do say, in the past 2 years, it's been a dramatic change in those offices. We don't hear, sitting up here, we don't hear the complaints that we used to hear years ago. So, congratulations to both of you and your staffs for making that
Thank you.
transition. I know it wasn't an easy,
Just want to say, back to the iPads, engineering staff, all our inspectors use this. It makes my life really easy. They have the cartograph utility mapping at their fingertips. If there's ever a question about a utility, the guys have it right there at their fingers. It's a really great system.
Thank you.
fantastic. Yeah, I'm great. Thank you.
I just have a few questions for you myself. Going back to the opening statement, you had mentioned that there were some fees or permits taken away that compromises the safety of the residents. And so can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure, sure. With the minor work, they call it, which is re-roofing, throwing another layer of roof shingles, siding, kitchen, like cabinets, you can put cabinets without a permit, even a water heater in the same size and fuel type you can replace in kind. Now, again, many people can handle those things with no problems. Other homeowners are getting contractors, and I highly advise any homeowner, get 3 quotes, make sure they're reputable, and check everything. Ask questions. Call us if you have questions. Because unscrupulous contractors now know that nobody's checking. There's nobody to keep them honest, to say how many nails you have to have on a section of roof, how many, nails you need to keep siding up, things like that. What's an appropriate attachment so my cabinets don't fall down? There's no more, and that's their purpose. That's what they're trained for. And all, I don't know if you're aware, all building inspector subcode officials had to start in the field and learn how to actually be a contractor and do this stuff, and then they take their license, get all the qualifications, and then they go back. So without a contractor having to be concerned about someone looking over the shoulder and saying you're not doing that right, or they can cut corners.
So this is something that was taken away from by the state?
Yes.
So is this something on a local level we can do to reinstate it, or no, we have to go by the state statute?
Analyzing a lot of these small towns,
Sure.
We had an instance down in the old section. The guy was doing a roof. There was wood shingles up there, which, like this, he's putting asbestos over the top of them. We had...
So, as an engineering department, planning department, is there anything that you can offer the residents as far as, like you said, they can call you guys and ask you?
Absolutely. If they're not sure, not clear, absolutely call. And again, with anything you're doing at your home, get multiple quotes. Make sure they're reputable. If a guy just drives up and, I can do this, be wary. Always be wary. And I always tell, in the past, if you get a permit, do not make your final payment until the permit is signed off and approved.
That's the law.
Right. And a lot of people don't respect that, and then they end up with no recourse.
It's on the yellow placard that you give the homeowner. It's on the back. It says, do not have to pay until final inspections. A lot of people don't look at the back. And just on a safety issue, when we go into these flippers, we'll go in, oh, it's a bathroom. You walk in, there's a brand-new kitchen. You did it, oh, no, we never touched the kitchen. Well, we got the real estate from the old thing. There's the old kitchen. Then we penalize them. One came in, they had an 8-foot opening from the kitchen to the living room. We get there, it's a 12-foot span. Went up in the attic, there's nothing there.
No beam, no nothing.
Nothing.
Wow.
And this is the problem. We're not the police, but,
These are like most of the fly-by-night
Right.
contractors, stuff like that?
Absolutely. And they know nobody's looking over the shoulder now.
Well, they went to town once they found out they didn't have any permits.
And it also impacts the good contractors. I know a couple of local roofers who said, this isn't a good thing, because now my competition, who doesn't do a good job and do things correctly, can really cut his prices and crush the honest contractor.
Right.
Rather than doing a tear-off, you just put a third layer on.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's
Right.
the wiser.
You don't know. Yeah.
And again, my concern isn't fee-based. I just mentioned there's an impact. My concern is safety for the resident.
Safety residents. For sure. Now, I just want to comment that, just like what Councilman Wendell said, the planning engineering department had a very bad reputation in the past for permits and slow pace at which things were being done. And I think over time, since the new administration came into place with Mayor Cohen and Joe RBA, things have improved along with, your thing. Would you kindly accentuate some of the finer points of the department, what's going on, what you guys have done to make it better? And also, I'd like you to give an overview to the residents, the life of a permit, from the time that they actually apply for a permit, and what stages it goes through real quickly. If we can be brief.
Okay, there's many stages of a permit, obviously, depending on the degree of work that's being done. It could go from being a planning board application for a major site that had lots of input from lots of different parties, all the way to someone just doing a deck. And obviously, the lifespan of that permit is totally different. But again, I would emphasize that it should all start with zoning to make sure whatever you're planning, whatever project you're doing is okay within the zone, it's not impacting your neighbors negatively, and it complies with code. Next thing, we'll let Colleen McGurk, our planner or zoning officer, will let whoever it is that comes in for a permit know what they need to do. Then they'll go over to construction inspection, depending on what it is, and they'll get their subcode permit. There's electrical, fire, building, what do I miss? Plumbing. So depending on what the project is, you could use all of those permits or just a few of those. And we work together very tightly, planning and engineering across the hall from building inspection. And I just want to say one thing that Richie just took over this year, and he is absolutely doing a fantastic job. Everyone has fell in line. They are a total team, and that makes things go much quicker. I mean, the guys like working for Richie. He's good. He takes care of them. The 3 tacos that we have, that's the technical assistant to the construction official, do a phenomenal job. And they know they're there for customer service, and they're very good at it. And I'm glad to see that someone recognizes that they do work hard.
Yes, I mean, I have to say, in the last 2 years, just like Jimmy had said, that, there's been a great improvement with the public as far as all these things are happening, and it's great to know. Other than Joe being able to track, are the residents able to track how the permit is being, just different stages of permit?
They can't log in online yet. I mean, like Joe had mentioned, we have many issues with firewalls. There's times I want to go out the tablet and access our whole network, but there's security issues with that. So that's where we're at with permit, but they can certainly call any of the tacos and they'll let them know exactly where they're at.
Great.
Excuse me a second. Just want to bring up, the problem we had in the construction department is between us and the architects. One contractor complained to the mayor at one time. We failed it because the architect sits in the architects for 2 to 3 weeks. He gave it to the contractor. Contractor never got it. We get a call. The other day, same contractor came in, the architect answered us with a question that we gave him. That's how they answer it now. It'll be coming. It'll be coming. We can't approve anything like that. So our problem is basically with architects a lot. Homeowners, we move them along and try to help them,
Still, a homeowner will come in, and the tacos will tell them, we'll get back to you within 2 weeks, and in 3 days, they're calling us, where's my permit? And we just can't turn it over that quickly. We try, we'll do the best we can. But another point I wanted to emphasize about the new software is when situations like this happen, we can look it up, because the ladies, a permit will have to go and be signed off by a zoning officer. A permit will have to go down to water and sewer to be reviewed for fee structure based on water and sewer requirements. And wherever it is, they track it. They have notes. And this date it went there. And occasionally we'll be like, hey, Keith, where's that grading permit? I'm like, oh, it's on my desk. Let me knock that right out, because we want to be as fast as we can. And the technical assistants are right on top of that, and the software enables us to stay on top of that.
All right. Any other questions from council?
I have just a question about something that may not be in your department, is sidewalks and driveways. Because if somebody has even a little lift in their sidewalk, it's not unusual for somebody to come knocking on your door and say, we'll replace those sections of sidewalk today. We'll come by today, we'll do it. Or somebody will knock on your door and say, we'll resurface your driveway, and and our truck happens to be in the neighborhood.
Right.
And if you give us this money, we'll be here this afternoon. Is that in your department, or is that somebody else?
Well, it's in our department, but if it sounds sketchy, it most likely is sketchy, right? I mean, but we have what's called a right-of-way permit. The right-of-way is basically 10 foot behind the curb, which is an area that is not owned by the homeowner, yet the homeowner or business is responsible for the sidewalks and the curbs and the driveway aprons. Okay. So any repairs of that, that maintenance is the responsibility of the homeowner. And again, With trees the way they are, the sidewalk sections lift all the time. We'll get a complaint, we'll act on it, we'll send them a letter. You may not be aware, it's your responsibility to fix it, and then we give timeframes, and we'll work with them. But there is a permit involved, it's a $25 fee, just to make sure our inspector will go out and make sure what they're putting back is up to township code.
That's good. That's exactly what I wanted to know.
Just, this is not related, but it's related. Can contractors work on Sundays outside, like putting up fences and things? I know when I moved in, I didn't know that we couldn't do it, and I had a contractor wasn't aware of it, so they had to stop. But are they allowed now?
They can work, there's a noise ordinance that restricts them, but things that can be inspected, afterwards, it's fine. We have someone that may be doing a section of sidewalk, and the gentleman wants to do it himself. We'll come out and check his forms, make sure the earth is compacted, tell him exactly what mix of concrete he has to use. He'll do it on a Saturday, get us the material ticket, saying it's the proper material, and it's all good. We'll check the finish afterwards. We get it, some people want to do stuff on a Saturday, that's fine. Just be respectful of the noise ordinance.
So it's Saturday and Sunday's the noise ordinance?
Yeah, the police control that.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you. I know we
All right.
took up your time. Was there anything else you wanted to mention?
Well, just if you guys had any questions about the pavement management program, or?
That's item on your consent
Item A.
agenda.
Yeah,
While Mr. Kipp is here, if you have any questions about that. What item is that, Ms. Perry? A.
And then also F, the Kensington, if you wanted to speak on that one.
Yeah, well.
Can I say something on Kensington? Well, since Ms. Perry brought it up, I was going to pull this one for discussion, only because, as many of you up here know, I typically pull every one of these for discussion, but those are I typically pull them because I'm overly concerned with the release of a performance guarantee when there are a tremendous amount of public improvements being done. This site, I was just going to pull and say, I have no problems with this because there's really no public improvements at all on this bond that was posted.
Right,
So-
right. And Jim, we're not releasing the bond. I just want to be clear. We
Just
do
the
have
cash?
some. We're not releasing cash.
Oh.
This is just part of the redevelopment agreement that was from 2011. Was when the commercial section was done, we went through this with Walmart.
Right.
There was a certificate of completion that was done. We have, our end of the deal is that once they, in writing, request this, we have 30 days to do it. That's all I'm putting out there.
This is just a certificate of substantial completion?
That's all it is. I do want to point out that
It's not a release of performance guarantee?
No, I do have a performance bond, the town has a performance bond currently on improvements out to Tisus Lane, and there's a few minor items that we're having them go after, so I'm not releasing that.
Okay.
This is just the residential improvements at Kensington.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and then the pavement management, I just wanted to, again, thank the mayor. By going out to bid so early, last year, and Joe knows the predicament I was in, when you go out for mass paving, we have to do what's called an asphalt adjustment. So I'm sort of gambling on where the market's going to go with the price of fuel, because that impacts asphalt, and there's an actual item that I have to pay based on this change. Last year, it went high because we bid a little bit later, so we were bidding at a low price, and then we were constructing at a high price, so we have to pay that difference for the adjustment. This year, the opposite impact happened. We went out early, so we bid at a high fuel price, and then the prices went down, and now we're paving, so we see the benefit of that, and we've already added extra streets because of that. So that's a big advantage.
I see that the milling machine and everything is up at Heavenly. I guess we're going to be doing that road.
Yeah, we just completed the parking lots at Heavenly, and today we were supposed to do base repairs, then pave the access road, but the rain kind of stopped us.
How many roads are being paved?
We've paved 14 roads, and again, we've added a couple, and we want to add Hardenberg Lane and Birch Ave, which is off of Hardenberg Lane.
But there are limits on Hardenberg between Riva and Oakmont.
Right.
That's
It's a
bad
big
area,
road.
though.
Excuse me?
There were some nasty potholes that were happening over there.
We don't have potholes in
winter.
town.
And it's basically, it's finishing off the road, because most of
Right.
Hardenberg had already been done. That was the only little section that hadn't been, and Birch is a tiny cul-de-sac off of that, and we figured that since we're out there, we will probably never get to a cul-de-sac that small ever again, so it's time for there to just do it.
Great job.
Great job, sir. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for changing the perception of the township residents of our planning and engineering department. Also, all the businesses that have come into town that have given us such positive feedback of your group and your people and your personnel there. And, you know, you've worked in tandem with the mayor and the office, because this is one of our, when we were running for office in 2016, this is one of our commitments, was to, you know, change the perception of how, you know, this was run. And I see what a great job you guys are doing, and the presentation you made tonight is really awesome. And I commend you for everything that's being done. I look forward to hearing more great things from our residents and future business owners who are going to come in. Because one thing I have to say, that every time we go in to a opening or a ribbon cutting, you know, the one theme that is throughout the thing is that they tell us what a great job and what a great, you know, ease that they had with the engineering planning department and zoning department. So I really want to thank you for, you know, helping us keep that commitment to the town.
Thank you, appreciate it, and the staff does everything.
And as a side note, you know, it's doing Heavily Farms and those properties there, and certainly helps out the water and sewer department. Must say that the department heads, Michael, Danny, and Keith here really have a good system. And we also talk about a lot of things, and it's a team effort, which includes you all. We made a shift in the way we've done things in the town, and you've enabled us to do that. And now we're bearing the fruit of that by bonding in November, getting the bid package out, getting a contractor in line, good bid prices. And let's face it, we're aiding these roads, and we're going to be done relatively soon with the whole paving contract, rather than all summer dealing with having to deal with paving. I know Keith and his staff have been running crazy. Danny's been working with you. We're raising meters and other various things. And I just must commend those three department heads and their entire department just for the collaborative effort that these people do on a daily basis. And I don't want it to go unnoticed that these people are really top-notch, and I really appreciate the efforts that you have done in keeping a good team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Moving on to the public hearing, can I get a motion for ordinance 19-15, authorizing amendment to lease agreement between the Township of East Brunswick and the East Brunswick Historical Society as tenant with regard to block 58.02, lot 37 on Milltown Road in the Township of East Brunswick?
Motion approved.
Motion by Councilman Wendell. Can I get a second? Second by Councilman Spadafino. And now I'm opening this to the public for any comments from the public. Seeing none, I will close the public portion. And
Any comments from council?
any comments from the council? And can I get a roll?
Mayor.
Oh, Mayor?
You're not council.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Estelle Goldsmith, who is the head of the Historical Society, who requested that we extend the lease on the property. She, at 96, requested it for 20 years. I promised her that I could only do 20 years if she promised to be alive to have the next renewal of the contract. It's a 10-year contract, and we've had a great relationship with the Historical Society and doing a lot of good programming, and so I encourage you to pass that, but we'll hold her to 10 years, though.
Thank you, Mayor.
Call the roll.
Call the roll, please.
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilman Spadafino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Council President Stanley?
Yes. Can I get a motion for the following ordinance 19-16 16, Bond Ordinance 1916, providing for various water utility improvements by and in the Township of East Brunswick in the County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, appropriating $3 million thereof and authorizing the issuance of $3 million in bonds or notes to finance the cost thereof.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Spadafino. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman McAvoy. I'll open this up to the public for any public comments on this ordinance and this ordinance only. Seeing none, I should close the public portion. Any discussion from council?
Council President, I would just like to hear once again from our business administrator to the community how significant this is.
Sure.
Sure, this is a great opportunity that Water and Sewer Division and Mr. Kipp worked together with the state of New Jersey, and basically we're going to be partnering with the state to replace the water line that's running down Route 18. That water line is aging, and with the state in their design of the drainage and whatnot on the highway, it was apparent that there was a lot of conflicts with our water line. Which would have caused them additional design and construction. So Mr. Kipp and Mr. Losak were able to work with them, and the state's going to pay for half of that water line. So we're actually only on the hook for the other half, and we get to pick who we want to design it and so on. So we're excited about the fact that we'll be able to upgrade that water service. It is also important as we get into the new redevelopment areas that we have a really robust water system to be able to provide the service that the exciting area of our town's going to be having. So this is a great project for the town, and once again, good partnership with the state of New Jersey as they work on that project. So I appreciate that Mr. McAvoy, Councilman McAvoy, sent it over to me again, but this is, once again, a good partnership with our own departments and the state of New Jersey, looking at the future of East Brunswick, because this is something surely needed.
Being that this is on Route 18, does the repaving take place by the state, or
Yeah, the state.
who's required to do the repaving?
This will all be done as part of the Route 18 project, so as they're laying the pipe down the highway, you'll put it under pressure, and then eventually they'll just cut it over, and connections will be, we're going to move them out of the highway behind the curb line, which will help a lot when they have problems in some of the stores or houses or whatever it may be there, where we don't have to shut the highway down to turn off the valve. So just another good example, but that's all going to be part of that project. The line will be put in place, the drainage will be in place, and certainly the highway will be repaved. Some people may notice that from Ruse Lane all the way down to Texas Road in neighboring town is also being done, and even the ramps. So we've been working with the state, and the mayor was very helpful in getting them to do the overpasses at Milltown Road and Cranberry Road and other parts, and repave sections of the highway that wouldn't
Arthur Street, too.
yeah, wouldn't wait until they did this massive project, because this project for the highway is huge. They're also looking at some of the bridges going over various areas where the Conrail line goes in as well. So they're looking at putting that as part of it, and it's great for our residents and the future of the town.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, Ms. Perry, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilman Spadafino?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
Council President Stanley?
Yes. Moving on to the report section. Do we have any reports from our mayor?
Two quick things. First, I wanted to remind people that we have a East Brunswick Arts Coalition, which is responsible for raising money from corporate sources to help in providing money for the arts. There are any money that they raise is going to be to help support Playhouse 22, the Historical Society that we just voted on their lease, museum, the Arts Commission, and the Human Relations Council, and to try to help provide them with funding outside of money that's dependent solely from tax dollars. Their first project that they're helping support this summer is going to be our version of Plays in the Park, which we're entitling Summer Stage Under the Stars. It's going to be a pilot program for the play Footloose, produced by Playhouse 22 and supported by the Arts Coalition. That will be the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the last one in July, and the first Thursday, Friday, Saturday in August, with the Sundays being rain dates. So I look forward to that, and hopefully the East Brunswick Arts Coalition will have a great start so that their funding can go on forward and to help really revitalize the arts in the town and put them on the map as far as corporate donors are concerned. The other thing I wanted to report, last week we had a program that was produced by the Urban Land Institute, which is a large real estate organization, and they helped produce a program that was brought to the high school and managed by the IPPL program. It's mostly sophomores, juniors, and seniors in high school, and they were given a project that provided for a fictitious town that needed redevelopment. And they worked with different Legos of different pieces. Some would represent a hotel, some would represent condos, some would represent historic pieces. And each person on the team had a different role. One person was a financial analyst, one person was a township liaison, somebody else was a marketer. Each person had a different role. And their job was to present to a group of professionals, included Councilman Wendell, myself, and several other individuals in the business, a fictitious redevelopment plan. And they really had to defend themselves. And I have to say, I think, Councilwoman, you were there too, right? Amazing work on the part of the students. They actually really took this to heart. They were incredibly eloquent in their ability to get up in front of a group and actually speak and defend a project. And the most important part of that is that considering their age and their level of understanding, it really was something that engaged them in a project that had immediate applicability, because this is exactly the work that we're doing here in East Brunswick right now with our redevelopment. And I think they came out of it with a far greater understanding and in-depth knowledge of what really is involved in the process that we're undertaking right here in their own town in terms of redevelopment. So they did an outstanding job. There was, however, a winner. There were 8 great teams, but there was a winner and a runner-up. But they did a great job, and I'm hoping that this will become a continuing part of the curriculum going forward. So with that said, I just want to wish every father here happy Father's Day, since we'll have that before our next meeting. And thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. From our town administrator?
Yes, I just have one item. I'd like to just thank the PBA and the superior officers for running a successful Olympic torch relay fundraising that they do every day. They ran from the ShopRite in Spotswood to Magnifico's, and then from there over to ShopRite in East Brunswick, and then from there down to the PD in Milltown. It's a big, huge fundraising event for the Special Olympics, and just hats off to the ladies and gentlemen that ran in the torch run, including our mayor. Yeah. Congratulations to him. And also, Anthony, the PBA president, wanted me to give a shout out to EBTV for the excellent video that they created about that event. EBTV basically was finishing getting the video about 2:15 or so, and by 3:30 they put out a really nice video that has had thousands of views throughout the state of New Jersey. So the PBA president had asked me to just give a shout out to EBTV and thank them for their great production. When we do get to the consent agenda, I will have one item that I need to make a minor change. So if you just come back to me during the consent agenda, I'd appreciate it, Mr. President.
Sure. From our law? Tom?
Nothing to report, thank you.
From our clerk's office?
Yes, I've been asked to remind anyone that might be going through the town as a solicitor that you do need to apply for a permit in the clerk's office. You also need to, if you are approved, you need to carry your identification that is issued by the clerk's office. So that, and if a resident is concerned if a solicitor has been approved, we do maintain a list which is up on the township's website.
Speaking on that, can you just elaborate the hours they're allowed to solicit in town?
They can come from, I think it's 9 o'clock to...
Should be till sundown.
Till sundown, yeah, I was trying to think 6,
That's the
5...
state law, right?
I don't believe it's 9 a.m., I believe it's sun up to sunset, I believe. Technically,
Wow, I like my 9 o'clock better than the sun up
it's a constitutional
thing, right, I knew it was something, but I knew the sundown, but I wasn't too sure, but yeah.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to remind residents, especially now that, well, I guess the next tax bill they get will be the new tax bill for the year, that anybody who's a senior and making below a certain minimum level of family income may qualify for a senior freeze program, which is, and information about that is available in the Township Assessment Office. But what that allows you, if you're over 65 and you make below a minimum income, which I believe this year was $87,000 a year, it changes each year, but if you make below that level, you actually qualify to have your taxes frozen at that year, and it won't go up beyond that. Now, you would still have to pay the increase to the township. The state then reimburses you the difference in a check, but it does allow you to have some level of control for that portion of the population that depends on rather a fixed income and doesn't have the ability to tolerate the tax increases. So any information anybody wants on that program is available at the Township Assessor's Office. This is a state program.
And when did this start?
That's been around
It's
for
been around
years.
12 years, right? Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else on council with a report?
Just want to give a little update on some redevelopment activities. I know, Council President, you and I talked about having the executive director here at our next meeting to speak, but I just think some things are happening, and I just wanted to let everybody know. I mean, within the coming week, may have started today, but you'll start to see demolition at the 110 Tysus, the old Wonder Bread factory, and they expect to be in front of...
When is that?
Sometime this week.
Sometime this week. Okay.
Yeah.
Weather permitting.
Weather permitting, of course, but we're trying to get together with them and do a little ceremony. But beyond that, they expect to be in front of the planning board in July with their plans, and so that's moving forward. I just want to let everybody know when you start seeing buildings being demolished that it's a good thing. So, and we'll get the executive director here at the next meeting to give some more in-depth updates as to processes with redevelopment agreements and everything else.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, the East Brunswick Human Relations Council and the East Brunswick Interfaith Clergy Council would like to invite everybody to an interfaith dialogue with religious leaders of different faiths. This event is part of the Conversation and Coffee that we started last year, a series of dialogues initiated by the East Brunswick Human Relations Council. The purpose for this dialogue is to bring the community together to discuss various topics of interest. Again, that's tomorrow at 7 at the Community Arts Center.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I want to move on to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please raise your hand, come up to the podium, and state your name and address. Seeing none, I'm closing the public portion. Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there any items that the council wishes to separate? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Well,
Before
just
the
one
motion,
thing,
yes.
item M, which is a shared service agreement between East Brunswick Township and South Brunswick Township. I've working with South Brunswick on this, and we feel the importance of doing shared services with our neighboring communities. Their collective bargaining agreements, they have a minimum of a 3-hour call-out on the weekend. So where we have 2 hours in the resolution, it needs to be changed to 3 hours in the agreement, because with their call-out, their collective bargaining agreements require that. Our call-out is 2 hours. So they want to keep them the same. Yeah, they want to keep them the same. They're in agreement to keep them the same. Generally, if we're going to go to South Brunswick to help them with a particular item, this is similar to what we did with the school system. And I will tell you, South Brunswick is very excited that we were willing to get into an arrangement with them. And I'm hoping that this will become the model for municipalities to work together with their neighbors to save money for both communities by having these agreements to help each other out. So we're going to see if this works out, and I'm sure it will, and just ask you for your passage of that resolution to give this a try.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion for the following items A through O? Motion by Councilman Spadafino. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Sullivan. Ms. Perry, please call the roll.
Councilman McAvoy,
Yes.
Councilman Spadafino,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Wendell,
Yes.
Council President Stanley.
Yes. Moving on to ordinances requiring a public hearing date of June 24, 2019. Can I get a motion for the following ordinance, 19-17, of the Township of East Brunswick, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 75 of the Township Code of the Township of East Brunswick, entitled Construction Code, Uniform Fees, Section 75-3, Fee Disposition of Money.
Motion approved.
Motion by Councilman Wendell. Can I get a second? Second by Councilman Spadafino.
Councilman McAvoy,
Yes.
Councilman Spadafino,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Wendell,
Yes.
Council President Stanley.
Yes. Moving on to the new business, can I get a motion for the following, 16626, of the Township of East Brunswick, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, awarding a contract providing a basic life support, emergency medical service response and transportation system for the Township of East Brunswick to Robert Wood Johnson Health Network, Inc.
Motion approved.
Motion by Councilman Wendell, second by Councilwoman Sullivan. It's open for discussion.
Council President?
Yes.
3 trucks during the day, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you, Council President.
This is a 3-year contract with
Yeah, it's
2
a-
one-year extensions?
That's correct. Public contract law allows 3 years and then 2 additional 1-year extensions. Also, in this contract, we put in additional events that the township may have, like 4th of July, East Brunswick Day, 90th birthday party, East Brunswick Day, that they could be available, up to 12 events, 2 additional rigs. So we wanted to get this done so we can ensure that we have enough coverage for 4th of July. And if at times the high school football games need coverage, they will be there. Likewise, if sometimes we're having an event throughout the town that we need coverage, we have in the contract up to 12 events per year. There might be the Buffaloes may need something at an event or whatever, which we'll be able to do that. It was in the bid, in the bid
One question I
document.
do have in regard to this, I know that the Middlesex County Fair has been an event that was run by East Brunswick Rescue Squad with, coordination with all the other surrounding communities. This doesn't take into
No,
consideration
there's no
any of
provision
that.
for the fair.
So,
No. That's an independent entity. They
Right,
worked
but-
with the rescue squad.
how will that be handled as far as calls or anything else,
It'll be-
emergency?
It'll be handled like any other call. If there's a need for somebody to be picked up at the fairgrounds, they'll call
RPD would
dispatch.
then,
Call dispatch, and dispatch will
because I
send
know we
somebody
have
out.
PD on site at the fair on a regular
Right.
basis, and we have fire departments on site, and basic life support systems, typically are, with other rescue squads from surrounding communities. I guess they would be dispatched if they were there, and they would just handle whatever. Otherwise, we would then put the tones in for,
Yes.
and
We'll
dispatch
Tone them out, yes,
Robert Wood for this work, should they need.
correct.
And then these rigs are going to be stationed at the old rescue squad building, which is now owned by...
Right now, the agreement says to be where the township designates. So we might decide that we'll leave one here and two up on the highway, which kind of makes sense during the day, so response to the western side of town would be good. So, but that's up to, the police department where they're going to position it.
Now, what about the other side of the turnpike? Traditionally was always served by Milltown Rescue Squad.
Milltown handles the fairs, actually,
Milltown will still handle
the fair.
the other side of
fair?
the turnpike?
The Milltown's going to handle the fair, the mayor.
But who's going to handle the other side of the turnpike?
This agreement is for the entire township.
Okay. That's fine. I just wanted to clarify.
Right.
Just have one question. Just want to make sure that, just recapping, that this new contract in no way, the township is the residents are not losing any benefits or anything from what we had in the past, right? Everything is mirrored and if not surpasses what we
Yeah,
had
I
in the
mean,
past?
it's basically, we put it out for RFP. And then we had a team of people that evaluated. The certified purchasing agent oversaw the whole process in there, and they were able to ask her questions in that. And I was an observer of the process as well. So the public contract law is very succinct on what you can do in this particular area. And we rely upon, Raj and I have done a couple of these in our tenure. So it's a very strict process. The township does get, $12,000 as a rental fee for the office space that they have in this building here. Also,
That continues.
that will continue.
Okay.
And there's no fees charged to the municipality under
No.
this.
Right. There's no direct cost for the
Right.
municipality.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, can we?
Councilman McAvoy,
Yes.
Councilman Spadafino,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilman Wendell,
Yes.
Council President Stanley.
Yes. Moving on to the good of the cause. Does anyone have anything for the good of the cause? Councilwoman Sullivan?
Just a reminder, my office hours for the summer, it's not that I'm not having them, is I know a lot of people are on vacation, so I decided you could call me up and we'll figure out a mutual time and we'll meet here if you have any questions or concerns. So please feel free to call me or you could email me. Thank you.
Councilman McAvoy?
On the consent agenda, letter C, I would like to recognize and congratulate our township clerk, Ms. Perry, for the reappointment as the Registrar of Vital Statistics.
Thank you.
Councilman Spadafino?
I would like to take this time to wish my beautiful wife happy birthday and for being very understanding about being at this council meeting instead of being out to dinner with her. Thank you.
I have one
Okay.
thing. I'd just like to congratulate the Arts Coalition and Jeff Winston and everyone else on that group. For those of you that attended the festival, it was a great event. I spoke to a tremendous amount of the vendors, and they expect that it will grow. They thought that the attendance and the purchases of their wares went very well, and they expect it only to be better year after year. It was a great venue, it was a great day, so hopefully it grows and grows, but I think it was fantastic, run very well, so congratulations to everybody involved.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none? Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night.